Your earbuds, is that better? Or
No, you
okay,
sound great. So,
perfect.
do you have water? Do you have everything that you
I
need?
have everything I need.
Okay, so I'm going to read a really brief bio and then we are going to talk all things the glorious Frances Turner. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right, here we go. Hey, everybody. My guest today is Frances Turner. Frances stars opposite Walton Goggins in the hit series Fallout from creator Jonathan Nolan. You can find it on Amazon Prime. She's also done so many TV shows, but maybe you know her from The Boys or New Amsterdam or The Man in the High Castle. Before embarking on her acting career, Turner built a successful foundation as a corporate attorney. She's a graduate of Cornell University and Georgetown University Law Center. She practiced law before she became one of the most sought after actresses. This is the most joyous thing to have you on the show. Welcome, Frances.
Thank you so much. It's so good to be here. And
Well,
thank you for that intro.
Well, that's obviously, if you go on IMDb, you guys, there are many, many more credits, but I want to spend our time talking to you rather than about you.
Yes.
You were on the show. I was saying before we started recording, I have a son who gaming was not my thing, but I'm highly aware of it. And the idea that a game could become this really compelling world that people are eating up and binging and absorbing. Congratulations on being on this huge hit.
Thank you. Thank you. It's fun. It's exciting. It really is a cool world to step into and then have the fans embrace it of the games and then people new to the games, they don't know the games,
Yeah,
come to the show and love it. It's a pretty cool thing. It's kind of it's a dream job.
it must be because you are glorious on the show. The cast, I mean, throughout, are you shooting season two or season three right now?
We'll be going into season two this year. Season three this year we'll be filming.
Okay. I mean, so obviously there is the main cast, and Walton Goggins, I'm sure, brings so many White Lotus fans to the show. People have all of these entry points, or Justin Theroux was on the show.
Yeah.
Macaulay Culkin,
Ella McCullough.
Ella, obviously the lead
Yeah.
badass on the show. Um, but I want to,
Mhm.
so first of all, congratulations. Like, I know what it is to get one's option picked up year after year and what a thrill that is.
Yes.
Um, and to really be there from the beginning and be mysterious and also a badass.
Yeah.
Um, and just you're so powerful on this show, and also there are so many questions that you probably know the answers to that the viewers don't. But to that point, how far ahead in terms of story have you, like, what are you privy to and how much is unfolding in real time for you as well?
So at this moment, I'm privy to what is going to happen through season two.
Right,
You
right.
know, um, I don't, I trust our writers implicitly. I didn't know starting season one, I didn't know where Barb was going.
Yeah,
I just knew she was wife and mom, and she kind of had some kind of job at Vault-Tec, but I didn't know that she was the way she was going to unfold.
yeah.
And I was just it was more than I could ask for, right? With her just layers and level of complexity and kind of her role in the overall narrative. So whatever the writers have in store, I trust them.
Yeah.
And they see kind of what I bring as an actor and what I bring with my craft. Um, so they definitely kind of utilize all of that.
They're writing to you at this
Yeah,
point.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
I think
and
they
you're
know
straight.
what I can handle and what I'm capable of. So yeah, it's a lot of fun. I don't know where she's going to go beyond what we're going to learn in the finale episode, but it's Fallout. So wherever it lands at the finale, of course, in season three, it's going to twist and turn and back again
Yeah.
and turn everything on
Yes.
its head.
Yes, and it's one of these shows that, it time travels, it's
Mhm.
dystopian, it's futuristic, it's our worst fears and our greatest fantasies about how people can be. at their best and at their
At
worst.
their
And
worst.
yeah.
Yeah.
Do you mind if we go back a little bit? Because it is very rare that I meet an actress who wasn't in a play in third grade and was like, this is what I'm going to do my whole life. Maybe you were in a play in third grade, but took a turn to the right rather than to the left for a little bit. So in terms of your origin story as an artist who for a while was working in corporate America, can you talk a little bit about your journey if you don't mind? Because it's so inspiring.
Yeah. No, I grew up, I'm from New York, so I grew up in Westchester County in New Rochelle. And
Okay.
I'm the youngest of three girls. And my mom she's now retired, but she's a middle school teacher. And my late father was an architect, right, with his own small firm. And my mom being a teacher, she had the same breaks as we did. She had the same working hours as her
Right.
children did. So,
And
she would,
summer's off.
and summers off. So she always had us in the arts in some way. Um, so I always say, like, growing up, I've always been kind of equally like, you know, really using both my kind of academic
Right
side of my
brain, left
brain and
brain.
right brain, left brain at the same time. So, and I was the one of my sisters who always stayed with all the creative things the longest, right? So I stayed with every instrument the longest. And in around the fifth grade, I want to say, because I did like plays in elementary school, I asked my mom to take me to get headshots. And I don't even know how I knew what headshots were,
Wow. Okay.
right?
Yeah.
And she took me to get the headshots. And my mom keeps everything. So I like came across them not too long ago. And she never did anything with them.
Right.
But it's like, yeah, okay, I'm a kid. Most kids will say you watch TV and you say, oh, I want to be an actor when I grow up. But how do you do that when you don't have any kind of family in the business? You don't see it
Right.
around you. Now, ironically, I did grow up a house away from Ossie Davis and Ruby Dee, right? So I grew up playing with their granddaughter, and anytime I had to do like a book report or some kind of report, I would go in and interview one of them. They were family friends, right? My parents always had like parties on our block, so they would always be over the house.
Wow.
But they were, I knew who they were, but I wasn't like, oh, they're actors, so I can be an actor. I just didn't know how you do it,
Right.
and I was young. So
Right.
academics, I was always a strong student, so just academics naturally took over. Um, Went to undergrad at Cornell, law school at Georgetown, then went on to practice at a big major law firm in New York City doing corporate law. And I got to a point where, I knew like I wasn't interested in being partner or anything like that. Like I was a good lawyer, but I wasn't passionate about it. And I said, okay, what do I want to do next? But
Mm.
I was still thinking as a lawyer. I was thinking, well, do I want to go in house maybe? Or like, do I want
Right.
to
Do I want a private
teach?
practice?
Right. Do I
Yeah.
want to teach, at a law school? Do I want to be a professor? Like, what do I want to do? But while
Right.
I'm trying to figure that out, let me get back to just nurturing the creative part of myself that, you're working so much at a corporate law firm, you're sleeping under your desk sometimes because you're working
Right.
so much. But let me get back to some of the creative things that I like to do to just nurture that part of myself while I'm trying to figure out what I want to do next as a lawyer. So I always say acting found me through a confluence of events,
What
right?
were the
Because
events?
that saying,
Yeah.
well, let me nurture this
Right.
part
So
of
now
myself.
you're like opening up to this
Right. But I
question.
wasn't
Right.
saying, let me take an acting class, right? I could have gone to a dance class, right? I grew up in high school and junior high school, spending my Saturdays at Dance Theater of Harlem, ballet, tap, and jazz. I could have said, like, oh, I want to learn some painting or photography. But the confluence of events, I was reading something in the New York Times. I was reading an article, and it ended up being about this woman named Susan Batson, right? Acting coach, acting teacher, who's worked with so many great actors, including Nicole Kidman for a really
Right.
long time, right?
Right.
And I'm reading about her, just really fascinated. Her own story, protege of Lee Strasberg, and actor studio, the whole nine. And then I see a picture of her, and she's like this tiny black woman. And I was like, who is this woman? And so I'm not like, oh, I want to learn acting from her.
Right.
I was just really fascinated by her and just wanted to know more of her story because I'm just like an intellectually curious person. So I
Right.
just immediately start Googling. I just want to learn more about this woman.
Right.
And in my kind of searching to learn more about her, I see that she has an acting studio in New York. At the time, now it's called Susan Batson Studios. At the time, it was called Black Nexus. And something made me call. Right? Again, I'm not like, oh,
Right.
I'm gonna take acting classes and this is gonna be the thing I'm gonna learn to do, you know. Something made me call. It was a pull. I tend to feel pulls towards different things in my life, right? Something made me call, maybe like once a week. They never answered. They never answered. A few weeks in, someone picks up the phone. They said, "Oh, we moved locations and we were building out the new studio. Tomorrow's our first class back." So this is why I'll never forget. This was a Thursday. They said, "Tomorrow's our first class back. It's Friday, 6 o'clock. It's our ongoing class, our workout class. You come in, we see where you are, and then we put you in an ongoing class." Fills up, tends to fill up, starts at 6, get here 10 minutes before to make sure you get a spot. Got scared, didn't go. Next day,
Totally. Okay,
did
thanks.
not,
Bye.
did not go.
Of course.
The next week, I am telling myself, well, I'm procrastinating all day at work, right? Just all kind
Mhm.
of self-sabotage going on. And then I'm
Right.
on the train saying, well, you know, at the time they were down in Chinatown. I live in Brooklyn, one stop away. I was like, I could just stay on the train and be home. It's Friday. Probably not going to get in the class anyway. You know, all this sabotage talk. But again, a pull, something made me get off the train. And I was the last person to get into the class. And Susan was teaching. And you know, I was a very different person. I was like lawyer self, you know, this is like fully Francis, fully artist, you know. I was just a different person. And I go through the class and there's like, you know, the circle exercise with dance and then the sense memory and then the monologue that we all get in the we get and then we come back in the same order and get feedback from the class and from Susan. And I was like terrified the
Yeah.
whole class, but I was like going through it. And I've always had a connection to my emotional life. You know, I'm sensitive in that way. You know, not like I can't sensitive like thin skin, but like I'm sensitive. Like I feel things, right?
Mhm.
So the sense memory stuff, you know, things were coming up. Think about a time that you were felt abandoned and who was there and what did it sound like and the place and was it cold? Was it hot? Like I connected to those things. Um, and so Susan says, so who are you? Where did you come from? I go, "Oh, Francis, I'm a lawyer." You
Here's my
know?
lawyer costume.
I'm a lawyer. And she's like, well, you know, do you want to act? And I said, "Oh, I think so." And she said, because I see something in you. And she said, I reminded her of another actor whose work I love. And I said, okay. And she said, you know, but you got to give me 6 months. She's like, lawyers and investment bankers who come in here all the time and say they want to act and then they never come back. Now, I realized many, many years later, because in that moment I said, okay, I realized what she was telling me is it's going to take not 6 months and you're an actor, but like it's going to take 6 months at least for you to get past the lawyer
Right.
self that
Right.
you are in to even find the very, very tip of your actor, your
Right.
artist, right?
Right.
And it's going to be hard. It's not going to be easy. It's going to be scary at times, but you gotta like commit to that process before you can even really start to learn what to do with your artist. You got to shed the layers first, right? The
Right.
cover
All that armor. Yeah.
all that armor, right? And so that's what I did. And then one class a week became two, became three, became four, all while I was still working, while I was still practicing as an attorney. And, you know, friends knew I was taking acting classes, but nobody really knew how serious it was. My
Right.
secretary did. And she was like, go, you got to go to acting
I
class.
got you. I got you.
I got you, right? Six
Yeah.
o'clock, you got to get to class.
Yeah.
And I was just, you know, and it wasn't easy. But there was something in the, you know, learning and the shedding and the freedom I was finding that I just kept me coming back. And then to go back to it being a confluence of events, right?
Right,
Susan was maybe taught that class for like two more classes after that. And then I believe she was like off doing working on a film with Nicole Kidman or something.
right.
So she wasn't teaching. So I always say, because I know this to be true, I say Susan Batson really did change my life. Because if I had walked into, because remember, I didn't set out to say, I'm going to be an actor, so I'm going to take some acting classes. And I, something pulled me there. And I could have gone into a different acting studio and had a different
Mhm.
experience where
Right.
I didn't feel seen, or it just, I didn't have the same, I had a different experience that w- didn't encourage me to come back, right? And I just kept showing up and showing up and showing up, and I was in ongoing classes. And so I do say, like, Susan, the reason I'm even sitting here as an actor with a career is that, and not a lawyer with a very different life,
Yeah.
that Susan Batson really did change my life.
So when do you sort of, if you imagine like when someone drives a stick shift and like how you kind of have to figure out the equilibrium between the gas pedal and the brake
Yeah.
and the gears. So this idea of like shifting over, was it a gentle like I quit and now I'm gonna go find an agent and get backstage, or were you doing both? Like were you auditioning secretly? Like how did you make your
How did I
way
kind of,
into to start
yeah.
auditioning? I just
Yeah.
read a lot
I
of big
couldn't
shows.
I couldn't do that while I was practicing, right?
Right.
So about like almost 2 years in to taking classes, and spending a lot of time at the studio, I because I even tried I even said, well, maybe I don't want to be an actor. Maybe I just want to be a lawyer in the film industry. Right?
Interesting.
Like
Sure.
this is like the negotiating I'm
Yeah.
doing with
Yeah.
myself, right? As I'm falling like more and more in love with the craft and what I'm discovering, my artistic self. I'm like, no, okay, maybe I don't want to do that. And some friends set up some informational interviews with like some film production companies,
Huh?
the law firms. And I just remember being in those interviews and just kind of like saying, like, no, no, that's not the side of this I want to be on,
Right.
right? And then I freaked out because I had this kind of moment where it's like, this is what I want to do. I think I found my passion.
Yeah.
But how do I leave something secure that I don't love for something that has
Not to mention 4 years of undergrad and law school and studying for the bar and taking the bar and passing the bar and interning and getting the job and then
and having bills and everything? And I said, people are going to think I have lost my
right.
mind, right? Like people are gonna think I'm crazy. I'm nuts. Like what is this? And I will never forget that it was like the following, this happened in a December because I really did freak the F out. That,
Wow.
but I remember it was a January and I woke up one morning and it was like moment of clarity where I just remember hearing like, this is what I leave for. And then I put a plan in place, right? I didn't just say, I quit. I'm
Yeah.
going to be an actor. I'm going to Hollywood. I put a plan in place and I said, I'm gonna work for a few more months and then I'm gonna take a leave of absence so that I can actually just start auditioning for things, student films, indie films, going to backstage and access, actors access and just submitting myself for
Right.
shorts, just so I can get experience, take what I'm learning in class and like get experience.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I need to. So I did that. I did like I planned to take a 4 month leave of absence. So I did that, and I was getting like some non-union commercials right away, and I got like a commercial agent, few commercial agents kind of right away. So I was like running around New York City doing that, and print calls and stuff like that, and then student films. And indie films and actually somebody I met at Black Nexus, another actor, Stephen Hill, who has was on Hawaii Five, the remake of
Not Hawaii Five-O.
not Hawaii Five-O, one of the other ones in the universe is I'm blanking on it. Magnum
Okay.
PI, Magnum PI. He's
Okay.
supposed to be on the reboot of Magnum PI, but we came up in Susan Batson Studios together, and he recommended me to a first year MFA student in the directing program at NYU because he was doing her short film and she needed the lead who is a woman, right? And so he recommended me. I went in and I auditioned for her and I got that. And then she ended up kind of musing me through her MFA career. So I did all of her student films. And she had was part of an amazing class because Chloe Zhao was in her class as a student, Shaka
Okay.
King as a student, Kyle Adrian Scott, Molly Asher, like all of these really talented, and Kiara Jones is her name. They're all just a really, really talented, tight-knit class. So they all worked on each other's films. So I met her right away, did her first film, did some other indie films, and then the time came to go back to work. Actually ended up extending my leave by another month, but my timeline was like I have to get back to the office before the end of the year so I can get the prorated bonus,
Okay. Okay.
year-end bonus,
Yeah.
so I can save some more money. So I did
Right.
that, and then I worked for maybe 4 more months in the office, and then I left. And then I left. I said, this is what I'm going to do. And I saw a path and, I had enough kind of like felt it enough by what I was seeing that like this could be something. And I had really fallen in love with like the craft of acting and
Yeah.
storytelling. And I just wanted to do more of it, and I wanted to see how far I could go, not even in the sense of like how far I could go in the career business part of it, but how far I could go with the craft of it.
As an artist.
Yes, as an artist, like how far I could stretch myself as an artist because it's such an evolving thing. Like you never stop learning and you
Right.
never stop growing and you never stop discovering parts of yourself, you know? So yeah, so I took the lead. I left, and then that's when it got really, really real.
Yeah.
Because the money I saved, this is acting is very expensive, especially in the beginning. So the money I saved
Like,
was,
Mom, where are my headshots?
yeah, can I have those headshots from when I was in the fifth grade? Uh,
We can touch it. It's
you
fine.
know,
I
but I
think
did
they'll
have a
work.
lot of like support from my friends and the scariest thing was kind of like telling my parents, and
Hmm.
I remember asking Susan about that, like, what do I do? So you sit your, I knew my dad wasn't gonna have, he's gonna be fine. But I was like the lawyer daughter, right? My oldest sister has a PhD, like this, since I'm the lawyer daughter. And I told my mom, this I'm taking acting classes, I'm taking classes. I'm really serious about it and I really think I want to pursue it. And, we had a conversation and she said, did you think you never could pursue this? And I was like, no, it's never, nobody ever made me feel like I couldn't do anything. That's what my parents actually did very well with me and my sisters, is that I believe that I can do anything,
Right.
right? I believe that I can do anything because I understand that anything I want to do, I have to do the work to do that thing. Right. So I knew that if I was stepping out into this, I was going to have to really do the work and take on everything that comes with that. So my mom ultimately was like, well, you can always come home. And
Mm.
that's when I knew I had that level of support. Now, I will say, she did say that, but then I realized, okay, she needs a little time to mourn the lawyer daughter. But then the first thing they saw me in was like my first kind of big thing was like a co-star on the Mothership, Law and Order Mothership,
Right.
when Jesse L. Martin was a detective with Milena Govich, who then since years later became a very good friend of mine. Um, I booked a co-star as the nurse in the cold open. It was one of the two Anna Nicole Smith ripped from the headlines episodes they
Uh-huh.
had. And
Yeah.
I had a few lines and I carried into like, the opening credits roll in the beginning. And then I was out of there. Like then the real story starts. But that's
Yeah.
how I got my SAG card. And so the first time my that was the first time like my family seeing me, it was like three minutes. But I think they were like, okay, she's gonna be okay. And that came without any agent or manager or anything. So I got like the kind of starter New York credits without having reps.
But how? Like for somebody listening, how did you get that without representation at that time?
Yeah, so at that time, I don't even know how you do it now because
Yeah.
there's no
The
being in the
new world.
room or, or anything
Yeah.
like that. But at that time, I kind of knew, and I think, I don't regret anything about my path, lawyer to actor at all, because I think it's has gives me a level of kind of like understanding kind of like the industry in a different way,
Yeah.
or being able to
Yeah.
see like critically think about like things so in a different way. So I at the time like there were the workshop places, and I remember somebody saying, for the Law and Orders, this is when they were three, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
oh, they need so many actors, and there were so many rules about if you do one, you can't do another one in the franchise at a certain amount of time. So they're always looking for new actors. And so I went to one of the workshops with one of the casting
Will you meet a
directors.
casting person?
Yes, to meet a
Right.
casting director in the Law and Order ecosystem
And it
of the
worked.
mother state, and it worked. So I did one. Uh, she brought me in for one audition. I didn't get that one. And then the next time, she brought me into like a pre-read, and then I didn't go to producers on that one. And then she had me direct to producers on the one that I ended up booking. So that was kind of like my first way in.
That must have felt great.
I mean, and I was getting my SAG card, and it
Yeah.
just all
It's
felt like
happening.
it's happening and real. And then that was my first kind of, I was doing student films and indie films, and that was my first experience on that kind of set, and on a show that I watched, no less. I mean, Law and Order.
Yes, it's amazing. And obviously, bit by bit, you're building this resume, but then you start having like character arcs, right? Like The Man in the
Yeah.
High Castle and now Fallout. Um, did you audition for Fallout?
I did actually. The audition came to me, and it's so funny that you mentioned that because when we were just talking about like everything's on tape now, Man in
Yeah.
the High Castle, the first audition for that was a tape. And that was before, the COVID era. So I
Uh-huh.
didn't have that much difficulty for my wrapping my head around like being in a
Right.
self-tape world, because I was always self-taping on
Yeah.
some point on some level, because I moved to LA at some point. So I was like taping for New York stuff, and I would come home and I was taping for LA stuff. So I was always, but I was going someplace to do it.
Right.
So like Man in the High Castle was a tape, New Amsterdam was a tape, Boys was a tape, Fallout was a tape. Um, the audition came for Fallout. I had just, I was doing The Boys. I had come off of New Amsterdam. And so I was playing like the love interest on those shows, right? And then the fallout came, and I was like, oh, I don't want to get like kind of caught in typecast by playing like
Right. The
wives
same kind of
and
character.
girlfriends, right?
Yeah.
Especially when I had come off of Man in the High Castle as this like woman centered in her own story. She wasn't defined by a relationship.
Right.
I had a love interest, but he was my love interest,
He was the plus one,
He
not
was the plus
you. Yeah,
one, right? So
exactly.
it's like I want to get back to that like three-dimensionality, like really
Yeah.
going on a journey, the character going on a journey. And so when Fallout came, and it was like the wife of, there was no script, and it was just one scene. And it
Huh.
was, the breakdown was like wife of Cooper Howard, mother to Janie. There was really no detail. And it was a scene in episode 1, in episode 3, where we first meet Barb at the crafty table, the lavender taffy.
Yeah.
And there was no like, this is a pre-war time with the 50s aesthetic. There was none of that. Um, and it was no like, here's a vault suit, put it on. But I understood the relationship. But I said to
Okay.
my agent, I said, I don't want to keep, I mean, I don't want to keep playing wives. Like, I want to get back to like really digging my teeth into something. But I said, okay, I don't, Fallout. I looked it up. It's a big video game franchise. Um, it's Amazon. I'd worked with them before. The casting director was the LA casting director on a pilot I had booked right before Man in the High Castle that Regina
Huh.
King and Robin Roberts executive produced. It was an ABC pilot, but it didn't go. And I was
Okay.
like, okay, well, John, I want to do this. I love John Papsidera, and I said, and Jonathan Nolan. I said, of course, it's Jonathan Nolan, Lisa Joy. I love Westworld. I'll do 3 takes, and if I like one, I'll send it.
Okay.
But I'm not gonna like drive
You're
myself
not going
crazy with
crazy. Yeah.
preparation. I was like, I
Yeah.
understand the relationship. And that's what I did. And I sent 1 take off. And, at the time when I got the audition, Walton wasn't announced as being attached,
So you
right?
did not know who was on the show yet.
And I was on the show.
Okay.
I think I saw that like Ella had been announced, but that was it. After I sent my tape, maybe a few days later, I see a deadline that Walton Goggins is
You're
doing
like, oh,
Fallout.
it's Walton's my plus
And
one.
I
Okay.
said, is he playing the husband? Now, he's an actor whose work I've always loved,
Yeah.
who always makes anything he's in better,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
also makes really good choices about
Yeah.
the projects he's going to do. And I'm like, oh, if he's in this, it's probably going to be really good. I was like, I hope my, I hope my tape was okay.
So wait, did I say I wasn't interested? And I have four
I
more takes.
I hope my tape was okay, but we'll see.
Yeah.
I do
Yeah.
them, and
Give
if
it
it's
to the
my
wind.
job, it's my job, right? If
Yeah.
it's not, there's nothing I can do to make it my job. And then I found out I was uh getting the job.
Wait,
And
no callback, no
no
producer.
callback. It was just the 1 tape. And I will say one of the things that also helped is that my first season on The Boys was out at that time, right?
Right.
So
So
The
they had a
Boys.
lot of material to kind of
Right. So the
watch you
boys
on.
had like the first 3 episodes had been released at once. So, that's a show that everybody watches. So everybody was watching it. So when I got Fallout, my agent said one of the showrunners, Geneva, she wants to Zoom with you just to tell you a little more about the character and the show. So I got on Zoom with her, and immediately all she was talking about was the boys and how much she loves me on the show. And I had this really kind
Um,
of emotional scene with Laz Alonso's character, Mother's Milk, who I play opposite as his ex-wife. And she was talking about that scene, really beautiful scene. And she was talking about that scene. And she was like, that show must be so much fun to work on. And what's it like? Da, da, da. So she said, when this role came up, meaning Barb, because they were all watching The Boys, she said, my name came up and said, we should talk to her about this role. And then an hour later, your tape appeared.
it's so incredible. Like every journey, there's, it is so like aspirational and inspirational in all the ways because everyone talks about success being preparation meeting the moment, right? So,
Mhm.
like, is it
Agree.
incredibly lucky that the same casting director that cast you on one thing became a fan? That's
Mhm.
not luck, that's
Mhm.
based on talent.
Yeah.
And but he's doing this other thing, right? Like you decide to do one, like, all right, I'll pay to meet a casting director. It pays off. It paid
It
for
paid
itself.
off. It paid
Paid
off.
for
It paid
itself.
off. Yeah.
And like learning and meeting a new community at your acting school and
Led me to
Mr.
Kiara at
Hill
NYU
thinks
and
of
her.
you.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's like it's all about these like little angels we meet along the
Yes.
way.
I say that
And
all the time.
yes, and doing the work. So it's
Doing
not
the
like,
work.
so no one is feeling like, well, I'm not sure I can recommend her because I'm not sure she'll
Mhm.
be like, they
Mhm.
know that you're going to show up with like
Yep.
so much curiosity
Yep.
and work ethic, which by the way, your background, I mean, not for nothing no one has to clock more hours. Talk about being ready to like get picked up at 4 a.m. for a call and do these, crazy long hours on a set,
Right.
except you get to play,
We get to
right? Like it's
play.
so
We get
much
to play.
play.
It really is like to your point, there are two kind of like my kind of Afro like there's a Steve Jobs quote that I love where he says, the essence of it is you can only connect the dots in hindsight,
Mm, yeah,
right? And I
yes.
really do. feel that like you may not get something that you really wanted, but it's because that wasn't for you. That's not part of the blueprint that's already been written that you're not even privy to. It's not part of that, right? Because there are jobs where I'm like, oh, I thought I had a really great audition for that or whatever. But if I had done that, if I had gotten that, I wouldn't have been free to do The Man in the High Castle.
But even going like not to get crazy about tracking all of it, and it's fascinating to me, even going back like you're a little girl. I don't know anyone in this business. Oh, actually, Ozzy and Harriet, like
Yeah.
royalty, just the
Right,
even though
royalty.
you don't understand it,
Just
um
that
you know,
proximity,
you're not going to
right?
see them in the theater,
Right.
or maybe you did. I don't know if you guys ever went into the city to see plays. I'm sure
No,
occasionally
we did. Well,
you
we did.
did.
That was one of the things that my mom brought us to do. We went to
Exposed you
see
to.
Broadway and
Yeah.
all of that. So,
There
yeah,
are
I
these seeds planted, and then
seeds
you're like, can
planted.
I have a headshot? I don't know why I want a
Well,
headshot. Like, because then, 20 years later, you're getting a
here I
headshot.
am.
Like, it's really magical.
Yeah.
And obviously, like your understanding of what hard work is and passion is, but like your willingness to sort of walk in. It is so
Yeah.
scary to
It
walk into
is.
a room alone. Like even walking
Mhm.
into that acting class by yourself, not even like calling a friend, like, will you come with me?
Right.
Like all of those rooms that you walked into with just such openness and vulnerability and meeting your artistic community. Like I think back, it really is those first acting classes, like that becomes your new
Yeah.
family. And that's the
Mhm.
beginning of this life. And now your family is Walton and,
Yeah.
all of these
Yeah. Yeah.
unbelievable
And
people.
it's just a beautiful community of artists that I've met along the way,
Yeah.
and there is like there was a panel, a SAG panel I went to when I had first moved to LA. I lived in LA from 2010 to 2016. And I
Okay.
went to this panel and it was like during Black History Month. So it was like Taraji Henson was on the panel, um, Shamin Bernard, casting director, Don Cheadle, Marla Gibbs, and Wayne Brady was the moderator. And
That's
I'll
a
never
really good
forget, it
panel.
was a great panel. And I'll never forget, Marla Gibbs said something that just I still hold close to me to this day. She said, "You all have guardian angels, or we all have guardian angels. You have to give them something to do. Move your feet." And that's exactly how she said it, right? So it's one thing to be sitting at home saying, "Ah, I wish, I hope," but you actually have to be in motion, right? So that your guardian angels, the universe, whatever, whoever you believe is watching over you, they say, oh, that's what she wants to do. Okay, she's showing me through where she's putting her energy, her
Right.
effort, her work, her
Her
attention,
feet.
her
Her
time,
feet.
her
Yeah.
care, her feet, that
Yeah.
this is what she wants. This
Mm,
is what she's interested in. This is
yeah.
where her energy is flowing. So, okay, let me sprinkle a little
Yeah.
something there
Grab
so
a
that
pair of
she
wings.
right, so that she sees one way or the other,
Oh.
like those informational interviews with the entertainment law firms I was going on. My guardian angels are saying, no, but she doesn't realize it yet, but she really wants to be an artist. So
Mm-hmm.
she's going to go to these meetings.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to make sure it's evident to her that she doesn't want to be on that side of
Right.
it.
Right.
So every little step of the way, I feel, look, you step out on faith, right? And you do the work and you stay present. And I really do a lot of work just on myself to stay present.
Yeah.
Um, because at a certain point, early in my development as an actor and learning my craft, I said, I would be in class and I would see other actors, and I was like, I want that level of ease, right? I always believe that you should just be around other actors who like you're like, whoa, okay, I want to learn that. So the level of ease. And then also I said I would watch, when I would watch films and television, the actors I gravitated towards, like that I love, just have such a deep well. So I really put the demand on myself. I said, if I want to do that level of work, like
Yeah.
fully formed, multi-layered work, I need to make sure I need to cultivate that within myself.
Mm.
I need to cultivate that as in my life as Frances for myself so that I can have access to that, and that it's not scary or that I don't have to necessarily like hide behind character to be that. So I really just have done a lot to like grow and like live a life where I feel present and limitless and, still but in motion, you know, and really just connecting my like my mind, my body, and my soul and spirit and heart.
Well, what an amazing journey. First of all, thank you for this like incredibly generous conversation. I'm so
Yeah.
grateful to like just get to be with you and just have
Oh,
this like to receive it. Like I have
thank
really received you today and I feel so full from this conversation and excited and
you.
lucky, really lucky. So thank you
Thank
for
you.
being on the podcast today. Before I let you go, I hope they told you that I was going to ask you to share a little known fact about you. Not that you haven't shared about a million, but
I know, right?
I'd love to know the one that you were like, I know, I'm going to share this.
Um, okay, little known fact until you know it. Is that I'm actually named after my late father and grandfather. So they are Francis with an I. I'm Francis with an E, and their middle names are Lee, and mine is Leah. So they're Francis Lee,
Beautiful.
and I'm Francis Leah. So I always say I'm the third. I'm FLT the third.
You're the third.
My
What a
family.
beautiful legacy. And you are just carrying their name into the world with such grace and beauty and artistry and elegance and talent. And thank you for your wisdom and thank you for your work. And I wish you nothing but more of what you love to do. And thank you for being on the show today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for this
Oh,
conversation.
you're welcome. All right. Until next time.
Until next time.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.